From WisPolitics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hello, everyone. This is Kate Morton with WisPolitics, here with a Capital Chats podcast brought to you by Spectrum. Today, I'm here in the Madison office to share an interview my editor, J.R. Ross, did with new gubernatorial candidate and Republican Tiffany. So, let's hear what they talked about.
First off, Congressman, I want to say thanks for the time. Let's kind of start with kind of your approach to the campaign. Are you trying to bring Trump policies to Wisconsin? You've been a big advocate for the president in social media and on cable news. Is that kind of like your vision of what you'd be as governor, is be kind of a Trump version at Wisconsin level?
Wisconsin is looking for leadership at this point, and you deal with the concerns that are out there. And I see us headed in the same direction in 2025 as 2010 when I was first elected. You remember, Governor Doyle had a $3 billion deficit. Looks like we're going to have a structural deficit being left for the next governor by Governor Evers. We have among the highest electricity prices now in the Midwest. That used to not be the case. Our educational system is collapsing here in Wisconsin. 31% of fourth graders can read at grade level. That never was the case in Wisconsin. We have fallen behind Mississippi. So I think there is a unique set of concerns and challenges for Wisconsin. They need to be addressed by the next governor.
So what would you do in education? Would you have more funding for education? Would you strengthen testing standards? Like, what would you do for education that would change things?
Well, in talking to some of the people that spend a lot of time in the education field and are identifying the problems, we've been using fads for reading. For example, something called 3Qing. And those fads are not working. And especially post-COVID, when there was such a loss of learning, we have to get our kids to catch up. And we need to get back to the basics of having a phonics-based program for reading. So it's things like that that have to be done that are fundamental. Our schools of teaching, they need to have a phonics-based program and make sure that the teachers that they're teaching, that they are prepared to deliver that good education for children. I think we should remove cell phones from schools. I think we should reward good teachers. And I think administrations of our schools across the state of Wisconsin, they need to be held accountable for getting results for our children.
So we just passed a reading package a year and a half ago that kind of got delayed because of the governor's veto. So they are going back to a phonics-based system. So you want to give that time to see that works, or would you scrap it and start over again if you're elected next November?
Now, we're going to implement changes immediately, because my understanding, what I'm hearing, is that while 3Qing has been banned here in Wisconsin, there's still schools that are using that type of program. We need to get back to a good program that uses phonics for reading, because reading is fundamental. One of the things that our schools of teaching should be doing is using the FORT test, the Foundations of Reading test. Any teacher that's going to teach in Wisconsin should pass that FORT test, and then we will get back to Wisconsin once again doing a good job of teaching reading and the other subjects here in Wisconsin.
It's going to be midterm. Trump's in the White House. You're not going to be able to avoid that dynamic. Is there any daylight between you and the president on policies, or where you're going to separate yourself from him between now and next November?
I just think it's a different set of issues. He's the president. He's dealing with issues at a national level. For example, foreign policy. We don't deal with that in the state. And I think it's really important for a candidate to stay focused on what are the issues in your state, because they're different. They're different federally. But in terms of issues that revolve around securing the border and sanctuary cities, yeah, I agree with what the president's doing there. There's a bunch of issues that I very much agree with him. Safe streets. He's making the point now with what he did in Washington, D.C., that Washington, D.C. should not accept the high crime that it has, and nor should other cities around the United States. We shouldn't accept it in Wisconsin.
Now, you've talked about the Trump endorsement and meme of the White House. Now that you're actually in, will you appeal to him now to endorse you in this race?
I'd welcome the president's endorsement. He'll make that decision whether he wants to endorse or not. I view it's my responsibility to sell people on this. It doesn't matter whether it's the president or the citizens of the state of Wisconsin. I have to share with them the vision of leadership that we need in Wisconsin for Wisconsin to be one of the successful states in America. Because I think that's what the 2026 election is going to be about. Are we going to go the woke and broke route like Minnesota and Illinois, or are we going to be one of the prosperous states of America?
Now, we've talked about fundraising. It's obviously been a question about you in running for this office. Have you talked to Diane Hendricks, the Uhlines, John Menard? Are any of those guys behind your campaign yet, or are they kind of taking a wait-and-see approach?
Oh, I've talked to a lot of people here talked to a lot of people in just different walks of life, including people that are significant funders, like you just mentioned, and talked to them, and they want to know what is the vision for Wisconsin. And I expect that many of them are going to be supportive of my campaign. But once again, I have to sell them on the fact that I have a vision for Wisconsin that's going to bring success to the state of Wisconsin. And on the fundraising front, what a lot of people don't realize is that sitting in my district, once I won that district in 2020, I really did not have a stiff challenge. So funders are not going to send me a lot of money like the 3rd Congressional or Brian Stiles race, where they've really had to work. People aren't just sending me money, so I'm not going to raise as much money. But I've helped others raise money. Some organizations that were really helpful in the 2024 election for President Trump, that a lot of people don't realize the work that I have done behind the scenes. I will compete. The Democrats have set the table in terms of, under the leadership of Ben Wickler, where they've raised so much money out of state. Some of their campaigns, statewide campaigns, they've raised as much as 90% of the money from out of state. We can decide, are we going to cry about it as Republicans, or are we going to compete? I'm going to compete. I expect to raise $30 to $40 million in this race. We're going to make Wisconsin a competitive race that we can win in 2026.
Will you be outspent raising $30 to $40 million, do you think?
Yeah, we'll probably be outspent, but we're going to have a better message.
Okay. Now, look, abortion is going to be an issue as well. I know you sponsored a bill, or co-sponsored a bill, I should say, in Congress that had ban abortion after a heartbeat, 6 weeks roughly. I don't believe there are exceptions for rape or incest. Is that still a bill you're proud that you supported, or do you now have second thoughts about that legislation?
So if you go back 10 years ago, you'll remember the bill that we passed through through the legislature, signed by Governor Walker. That was the 20-week or 5-month bill. And I voted for that 5-month bill, and I stand by that bill, and I will uphold it as governor of the state of Wisconsin. Currently, the law in Wisconsin, right, 5 months, and I will uphold that law as governor.
But do you not support that 6-week bill anymore?
I support what we have in the law in Wisconsin at this time, which is the 5-month bill. And I will uphold that law as the governor of the state of Wisconsin.
So you have a Republican-controlled legislature next year. They send you, or 2027, they send you a 12-week ban. Would you sign that ban?
I'm going to uphold the 20-week bill. I mean, this was a product of compromise. You remember the debate. There were people that said there should be unlimited abortions, some that said there should be no abortions at all. We came together with a compromise. I've talked to a lot of constituents, friends, and relatives about this issue, and it's a really deeply personal issue. And I think we hit the place of compromise 10 years ago. It's a law in Wisconsin. I'm going to uphold it.
Well, Robin Voss has said that most Western countries are at 14 weeks roughly, and so that's where he thinks it should be. But you're not willing to go there then?
So people have opinions with various amounts of time. I believe we hit a compromise 10 years ago, and I'm going to stand by that.
Other Republicans running, Bill Berrien, Josh Owen, I know you've said you're going to stand out because you're the best candidate to win.
Sure.
With the news about Berrien this week, do you think you should drop out of the race?
Oh, that's Bill Berrien's choice of what he should do. He got in, and, it's rough and tumble in politics, and, he's finding out how rough and tumble that it can be. But I'm not here to tell anybody to get in or out of this race. I'm going to take care of my business. That fills my day.
The Big Beautiful Bill, now the Big Beautiful Bill Act, I guess.
Yeah.
Polls have shown it's not terribly popular. Depends how you couch it. Public's trying to cast it as a tax cut bill. How will you run on that vote, or will it be part of your campaign for governor the next year and a half?
I think a better name for it is the Working Families Bill, because when people find out the particulars, no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security, really doing something in regards to Social Security to put more money into seniors' pockets. That is good stuff that the public likes. I mean, think about it. We increased the child tax credit. And there's just a whole series of issues in there that are good for the American public, but especially for working class people, for families. And we need to make sure that we're messaging that, those of us that voted for it, because there is good stuff in there.
So you're from a district that's obviously hundreds of miles away from most voters in Wisconsin. How are you going to do your job as a congressman, but also be in suburban Milwaukee and Green Bay and Dane County in southwestern Wisconsin to meet voters?
No, I'm used to multitasking. I mean, remember, my district covers 40% of the land mass of the state of Wisconsin. The state Senate district I used to have was among the biggest in the state of Wisconsin. I'm used to traveling. I'm used to having to get around the state. I think the other thing that some people don't realize is that, I mean, I sat on the Joint Finance Committee for 3 budgets, and we traveled all over the state. I went to those listening sessions in Milwaukee and other places around the state of Wisconsin. I have a pretty good sense of where people stand in the state of Wisconsin, and we have a 72 county plan here that we're going to implement that is going to win this race. I'm prepared for what is to come here.
Republicans have a Trump problem when Trump is not in the ballot in Wisconsin. It's been apparent in the Supreme Court race this spring, 2022. Trump voters don't turn out when Trump is not in the ballot. So how do you get those Trump voters to turn out, but also attract voters in suburban Milwaukee who are not big fans of Trump, who used to be Republicans but now have drifted away from the party over the last 10 years or so?
You know, I think that's one of the things that I'm going to bring to the table for us in this election, because you look at the 7th congressional, I would say that arc of the 3rd, the 7th, and the 8th, that goes from western Wisconsin over to northeastern Wisconsin. Those people outvoted Madison and Milwaukee in November of 2024. And we do need to reignite them. And I will do that, because I will bring that message to the people of the state of Wisconsin. You have to paint a clear contrast for the people of the state of Wisconsin. Bold colors, clear contrast. And we are going to do that. And I think we can turn people out as a result of that. So you're correct that some of those people have been occasional voters. We need to turn them into every election voters, and that is one of our challenges going forward. I think something that is going to redound to our favor is the horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk. I can tell you, we are going to be on college campuses all over the state of Wisconsin, because this has ignited a fire amongst young people. I don't know that people our age fully understand how much they embrace the message of hope, opportunity, faith, family that Charlie Kirk embodied. But I think that's going to have a real impact in this next election.
Trump ran in 24 on inflation, immigration, transgender issues. Are those going to be big parts of your campaign? Of course, inflation now is kind of something Republicans own, right? Because they're in charge of the economy. But should we expect a lot of ads on transgender stuff, on immigration in your campaign?
We're still trying to dig ourselves out. I would take exception a little bit there, JR. We're still trying to dig out from the inflation that Joe Biden started. He, in early 2021, he was warned by Larry Summers, you are going to ignite inflation in America, and that's what we got for the next 4 years. You're not going to solve that in 8 months, but I would hope by a year from now that we're going to be able to get control of that. I think you're going to see interest rates go down. Though Fed Chairman Powell has stood against lowering interest rates, I think that is going to happen. That's going to help the economy. When you look at the things that were in the Working Families Bill, putting more money in people's pockets, I think you're going to see the impact of that here as we go forward.
Well, Powell said, I think yesterday, that tariffs are playing a role in the rise in prices. So you think the president's tariff policies are good for Wisconsin, especially the ag industry? I've seen soybean orders are down from overseas and things like that, are those policies going to be good for Wisconsin farmers and the Wisconsin economy?
So I think Powell is in full CYA mode at this point because he was the same Fed chairman that left interest rates far too low a decade ago, and now he's left them too high. He has not managed the economy the way he should as the Fed chairman, and it's why he should be replaced. So if he wants to blame tariffs, he can certainly do that. But I think when you look at some of the trade deals, which there was one just signed last week with Taiwan, where there's going to be a significant increase in the amount of soybeans that are going to be sold, I think you're going to see the impact of some of these trade policies, especially with agricultural commodities that we're going to be selling more to those other countries. But let's be clear. It's been 20 or 30 years now that we've been where we outsourced American manufacturing. We're not going to turn that around overnight, but we do need to turn that around because we have had countries like Canada, Brazil, and others that have had extremely high tariffs that we need to challenge them because we have to bring some manufacturing back to America. We cannot continue to have most of our pharmaceuticals and components of our defense weaponry that is coming from China, because China has made it clear they seek global hegemony in the 21st century. Is America and Wisconsin going to stand up for that challenge? We need to do that, and I believe we need to work our way through this tariffs policy, and then I think ultimately we will bring manufacturing back to the state of Wisconsin.
Now, economists will argue that also means higher prices for Wisconsinites and Americans in general. So should Wisconsinites pay more for products to have manufacturing back in the United States?
Well, I mean, when you look at the inflationary indexes, I mean, they're not showing an increase at this point. I mean, so, I take exception to this characterization that prices are going up significantly when that's not in the data.
Well, I mean, you can make a T-shirt cheaper in Vietnam than you can in South Carolina. That's just a matter of economics. So do you think it's appropriate for Wisconsin to pay more for Levi's or T-shirts or whatnot to have the manufacturing stuff being made here?
We're not going to bring everything back to America, but we should bring some manufacturing, especially the advanced manufacturing. That should be done in America, and I think that we can do that. I mean, we still have good research in America, and I think we can build this stuff in America once again, including in Wisconsin. So, I would go a step further. Wisconsin, we're the number one manufacturing state per capita in the United States. And under Governor Tiffany, we're going to build on that. We're going to bring more manufacturing to the state of Wisconsin.
Well, you voted for manufacturing. I think you were in the legislature, so the manufacturing ag credit. We haven't seen a boom in manufacturing since that was passed. So do you think that tax credit has been worth it? And is there to be more tax breaks for manufacturers to stay here in Wisconsin to bring more jobs? How do you bring them back?
Oh, I disagree with that very much. There were companies that immediately came across our western border to western Wisconsin and built factories here in Wisconsin after the manufacturing agriculture tax credit. In fact, there's one gentleman that owned a couple plants over there. He said it is the sole reason why he came to Wisconsin. So we did see some growth, especially on the borders, with that manufacturing and agricultural tax credit. I think it served Wisconsin well. I think one of the things that we need to deal with at this point is the lengthy permitting process that we have. The Department of Natural Resources is the number one agency that decides whether we're going to have economic growth, especially on the manufacturing side in Wisconsin. We need reform with the Department of Natural Resources. We do not need to lower our environmental standards, but the permitting process should be streamlined and be able to get done in a much quicker process. I will reform the Department of Natural Resources to make that happen.
You're also here in Wisconsin did not expand Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act. We now have the One Big Beautiful Act and all of its impacts on Medicaid. How do you shore up hospitals in rural Wisconsin? And are you proud of that vote? And even if it means people who are on the exchange? Because the whole thing about part of Wisconsin was we're not going to expand through the Affordable Care Act, right? Put you in the exchange. The exchange, we now have these credits to help you pay for the exchange. Are you hurting the people you put in the exchange? It's been 13 years now, a dozen years ago. Are you okay with those credits going away for those folks you put in the exchange in the first place?
What you alluded to earlier in the Working Families Bill, the details, and this is a really important detail. We put $50 billion in a stabilization fund for rural hospitals. Wisconsin's going to get a significant amount of it. We are looking out for those rural hospitals, including right here in Wisconsin, by putting that in the bill. The other thing with the Working Families Bill, and I think it's so important for Medicaid because we see the demagoguery that is going on out there. We are preserving and protecting the Medicaid program. And we're doing it by you take illegal aliens off from the program. Illegal aliens should not be getting that money. California budgeted $9 billion in their Medicaid program for illegal aliens. The taxpayers of Wisconsin should not be paying for that. We also said that able-bodied people should be working, that they should not be sitting home collecting a paycheck from the taxpayers. Go out and get a job, and oftentimes you'll be able to get health insurance yourself. So we made sure that we put reforms in the Medicaid program to preserve and protect it in the future for those that the program was originally set up for. Pregnant women, those that are that have disabilities, those people that the program was originally set up for, we are preserving and protecting it for them.
But those subsidies, I mean, that's an active issue in Congress right now with the debate about continuing resolution. Do you want those subsidies extended, or do you think they should be ended? I think Ron Johnson said it opens the door to fraud to have those subsidies continue.
Yeah, I think there's, as we see more information come out about the improper payments that have been made to healthcare providers, it is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So we really do need to have accountability on this front. And that's one of the things I think I can do as governor. Let's make sure all that Medicaid money that we're getting, which is significant from the federal government, as well as what's put in at the state level, let's make sure we're spending that appropriately. That's why I live with these three items in healthcare: choice, competition, and transparency. We need greater transparency from our healthcare providers and letting people know how much stuff costs. And then make sure that the benefits of Medicaid are going to those that are truly in need. I think we can do that and fulfill that commitment that we have to the most needy.
I'll ask you one last question. The race to replace you, will you endorse in that primary?
I will not endorse in the 7th Congressional.
Okay, just had to ask. Great. Thanks. Appreciate the time, Congressman. Have a great day.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of WIS Politics Capital Chats podcast. If you'd like to hear more about the governor's race in Wisconsin, you can head to our website at wispolitics.com. For now, I'm Kate Morton. Thanks for tuning into WIS Politics Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum.